Good morning, Austin, and welcome to the Atheist Experience. My name is Ray Blevins, my co-host Jeff D, and this week's guest, Arlo Pignotti.
Hello.
This show has been brought to you by Atheist Community of Austin. This is live, May 30th. We'll be taking your phone calls shortly. That's the number there. I just want to thank Arlo for the music there. That's you want to give us a little bit?
Yeah, there's a fourth album I'm working on. Most stuff I've done solo, but now I'm working with other people, and that's a lot of fun. And myself and Kevin Pope is another experimental musician. We just had a lot of fun mixing this one together, and I'll play some of it every now and then.
The name's Frolics?
Yeah, Our Friends from Frolics 8.
Oh, okay.
Kevin came up with that one. Good title.
Interesting title, yes. We'd like to start out with announcements of the group. Atheist Community of Austin meets every Sunday down at the Hot Jumbo Bakery, and we're here in town this weekend. We didn't leave town this weekend like most of the people did, so come on down to the Hot Jumbo Bakery and meet us all in person. It'd be fantastic. I like meeting all the callers. There's still a few callers out there we haven't had a chance to meet in person yet. And then the first Sunday of every month is our lecture series, and that's at Furs North Cross Mall. It's at 11 a.m. is when the restaurant opens at 11 a.m. And next Sunday will be our lecture series, and that's Howard Thompson. There's a bunch of stuff going on in the background here. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. It's got my attention. I'm sorry, folks. So anyway, Howard Thompson is going to be the guest on our show next Sunday, and will also be the guest speaker at our lecture series. And that's free and open to the public. Everyone's welcome.
And that's instead of the bagel shop meeting.
Right.
On those weeks where we have the speaker, we don't meet at the bagel shop. And I won't be here next week because next week is also the expedition by some of the members of the Atheist Community of Austin up to the Church of Free Thought, North Texas Church of Free Thought, which is an atheist church. They provide all of the things that you get from a church minus the superstition. And we're going to go up there and check out their operation and see what they do. Apparently they have childcare, Sunday school classes where they actually teach them science. And they're going to be talking about Thomas Paine, and we're losing our light there. That was disturbing.
Special effects.
Talking about Thomas Paine and Voltaire is the subject of their discussion. So anyway, those of you who are planning on coming with, please meet me at the bagel shop this morning because we're going to finalize plans.
Yes, I like your choice of words, expedition.
Sounds cool.
And, as you can see, this is live TV. We're still fine-tuning everything there. And the lighting seems to be a little bit better there. Thanks for the help there, Brian. I appreciate your help.
Yeah, we've been a little short-handed because of the holiday.
Yes. I'd like to welcome Arlo to the show. He's normally our sound guy, so he's the one who's doing the sound effects. There's been doing
no
real
sound
well.
effects today, though. Sorry, folks, but we're playing with the lights, I think.
Yeah. So we'll do visual effects, yes.
Yeah.
So you were discussing several things that you've been doing, like reading the Bible from cover to cover, and you're reading this the other book you just mentioned this morning.
Well, yeah, I haven't read it in a while now. It's been a few weeks. I'm getting to some parts which just aren't really that entertaining anymore. There's some parts that are just. What kept me interested in it was just sometimes how bad it was and how atrocious it was. There are parts where it just rambles on and on about they went to this town and camped, and they went to this other town and camped, and went to this other town and camped. There's just no educational value, no moral value whatsoever, page after page, and most of it's about how to trade your donkeys, and just, I don't know. But, I mean, I'm going to keep doing it, but I'm just saying I took a break, and I'm reading a book now that my grandmother bought me. It's a very nice book. It's called Harlot by the Side of the Road. I wish I'd brought it to show the folks, but it's written by a lawyer who it seems he used to be Christian, and he talks about how he is reading the Bible in English translation, which was easy to read to a 5-year-old because he's reading it to his son.
Right.
And he found himself stopping and skipping over parts because it just wasn't appropriate. And his son was curious, and even his son knew that. What are you not telling me? So And he started investigating the Bible and its origins, and it really goes into the parts which people ignore. And it shows how the Old Testament, by many rabbis times ago, had just decided not to read it anymore.
Well, I appreciate you coming on to such short notice today. That's the reason.
Yeah, I wasn't really prepared.
So once you get that book done, it sounds like something we'd like to have a review of.
Yeah, I'll bring it on sometime after I've read more of it. I mean, I've just read the first 18 pages, so.
We should probably mention to the viewers that this is a 5th Sunday of the month, and sometimes we don't get to be live on a 5th Sunday of the month. But we lucked out this time. We were talking about maybe not being live here, and that's why we needed Arlo to step up to the plate at the last minute here. And thanks a lot for doing that.
So remind everyone this is live, May 30th. We'll be taking phone calls live on the air. If you have any questions for any atheists there you'd like to ask there. I see a couple news articles.
I've got some news.
You want to go?
I'll do news.
Just a quick review of the news here.
This was from The Statesman. O'Hare children were slain, says U.S. investigator. Federal authorities alleged for the first time Wednesday that a former employee of Madalyn O'Hare killed the atheist leader and 2 of her adult children, burying their bodies in a Texas field. The accusations against David R. Waters and 3 others allegedly involved in the murder plot came in a 36-page court document. Authorities said Waters, now jailed in Austin on weapons charges, orchestrated the plot to steal at least $600,000 from O'Hare's United Secularists of America, according to the document, an affidavit used to get a search warrant. Well, this is a new development. The last thing we heard was that they were out in that field poking around trying to find the barrels that the bodies are supposed to be buried in, and they didn't find them, which I find a little surprising. I thought you couldn't accuse somebody of murder unless you had a body, but that shows how much I know about the law. So, yeah?
I guess they're doing kidnapping. You say kidnapping and murder charges both?
Did I say kidnapping? I read what it said, and I guess I wasn't paying attention.
I'm sorry. No,
murder plot.
I'm confusing it, because I've read several different articles,
murder
too.
Plot.
I'm sorry. I'm confusing articles.
But this guy used to work at American Atheists. My information from people that worked there was that he himself was not an atheist. There were quite a few people working in the offices at O'Hare's organization that were not themselves atheists, because we're few and far between, and you still have to have office staff. But maybe he was, in which case we'll take responsibility for him. But he got fired when he stole, $50,000 from him once. And anyway, it's all very sordid, and at least there's some developments there. So, but it is looking very much like she did not take the money and run, as so many Christians were so eager to assume.
Excellent point, yes.
She got killed by a guy who was mad at her and greedy. Next news item. Reform Jews given a choice on rituals. Rabbis of the United States' largest Jewish denomination, which once jettisoned ritual observances in favor of a religion of rationalism, voted overwhelmingly Wednesday to endorse an optional return to traditionalism by congregants. I love the way this is worded. They once jettisoned ritual observances in favor of a religion of rationalism, but now they're endorsing an optional return to traditionalism. Well, don't they mean irrationalism? Wouldn't that be the thing they're returning to if they're taking back what they once jettisoned in favor of rationalism? So apparently what's happening is, with all this spiritualism movement that's sweeping the country, the Reformed Jews want to be free to do all the wacky little ritual things that don't really make any sense but are part of the ancient beliefs. And the rabbis are getting together, and they're trying to push through measures that make that officially acceptable. So that's again, for those Christians who are watching who think we always pick on Christians. No, we'll pick on anybody that we think is doing something kind of silly. Democratic presidential candidates favor faced. I'm catching it from you, Ray. Yeah, let me start over again. Democratic presidential candidates favor faith-based groups delivering federal social programs. This past week, Al Gore joined Bill Bradley in calling for the use of faith-based organizations in delivering government social services. This means that practically every candidate from both the major parties has come out in favor of this idea. Gore argued that this wouldn't violate church-state separation because these faith organizations wouldn't be directly using federal funds for preaching. But this is now my commentary. This is a ridiculously limited interpretation of the separation clause. The sheer act of specifically singling out faith-based organizations for this important work puts a government seal of approval on faith as opposed to non-faith. This government bias will only get worse when they start picking out the specific faith-based organizations that they are willing to work with. Will Muslim groups be delivering federal social programs? How about Hindus, Buddhists, Raelians, Wiccans, or Satanists?
Yeah, the Wiccans are going through all this trouble right now with Fort Hood and everything else.
That's right. That's right.
Good. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're exactly correct. Government has no business putting only some popular religious views on a pedestal. And I encourage everybody watching this show to contact their political representatives and political parties and let them know how you feel about this issue. Now, they might try to argue that faith-based groups have some kind of good track record and that they've just proved their reliability and that it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they happen to be faith-based. Which brings us to our next story. Report: children's charity executives stole donations. Nashville, Tennessee. Allegations that executives of the worldwide charity Feed the Children took home boxes of donated food, clothing, and household goods are being investigated by state authorities. After a 4-month investigation, WTVF-TV broadcast videos of charity executives, their assistants, and relatives using dollies to wheel boxes, several at a time, from a warehouse to their cars. After being tipped by the station, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation agents on Monday raided a Nashville office of the charity and the homes of 6 administrative employees. The agents carried out boxes and bags of brand-name clothing, some with tags still on, shoes, videos, blankets, and food they suspect were donated for the needy. One box had "Merry Christmas to Me" written on it. Steve Highfill, executive director of Feed the Children's Nashville office, was one of the employees shown on the video. He told WTVF he saw nothing wrong with allowing administrative staff to take donated items. Quote, "If they're taking stuff home and giving their little brother a pair of shoes or some food, I don't have much to say about that. If that's wrong, fine. I don't think so, and I don't think people are going to think so." Unquote. Feed the Children, founded in 1979, opened its Nashville warehouse in October 1996. The group said it is also checking into the reports. That's really interesting. I noticed that in this news report, they didn't mention that this is a Christian charity. It says so all over the Feed the Children website, where it also, on that website, says nothing about this investigation. No apology, no, hey, we're looking into this, no nothing. And it just shows, once again, that there is no guarantee whatsoever that if you happen to be faith-based, you are more reliable, more trustworthy, more honorable, more moral. And it just shows the sort of bias we have in our society in favor of any organization that cloaks itself in a shroud of religion. When they do bad things, people try to brush the religion aspect under the carpet. So that's that. As an interesting little side note, just for those of you who are following along at home, a recent study using the Hubble telescope has narrowed down the age of the universe to 12 billion years. They were looking at range anywhere from, I think, 12 to 15, but they've narrowed it down much closer to 12. And I'm not sure what that means for like the Hubble constant and stuff like that. Can you fill us in on that?
That sounds similar to what I heard quite a while ago, though.
Well, maybe it just got into the news.
Yeah, that's true. It takes a while.
Or maybe they refine their level of accuracy.
It might be.
If they were going at 3 billion years accuracy, 12 to 15, now they might be down to 1 billion.
Right. The news story is they narrowed it down. It sounds like Arlo knew that already.
Wait, 1 billion?
I'm throwing numbers. I'm throwing numbers out there.
Let's get this straight.
12 to 15 would be a 3 billion margin of error, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
And I'm saying maybe they narrowed it down to...
It's about...
Is 12...
let's see, it's probably... When was the convention? It was about 5 months ago when I went to the astronomy convention.
Right.
And they said they did narrow it down to a margin of 1 billion about.
Okay.
So margin of error of 1 billion?
I'm talking about the age of the universe.
Right.
The margin of error.
It's
because it
12
was
billion
around,
plus or take a billion?
All right, well, I thought it was more like 15 billion, but...
Okay, well, the news story I heard said 12.
Some big breakthrough now.
Well, which of those ends of the... I remember the problem that the Hubble constant didn't match certain ages of the universe, right? And that is a shorter lifespan of the universe, a lower age of the universe closer to matching the Hubble constant, or a longer age of the universe closer to matching the Hubble constant? Do you know this off the top of your head?
Right, I think we're
putting you on the spot here because we
were
mentioned astronomy before.
I think we're expecting to find the universe to have a larger age, or star formation a shorter.
Because we're finding stars that are actually older than what the univer's are.
That appear older, yes.
That appear older, yes.
Okay.
Good point.
Oh, okay.
So we do have a caller here, though. Let's see if the phones are working right.
Sure.
Let's go to Ralph.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Whatever happened to Madalyn O'Hara?
She, at this point, it looks like she's got murdered, and but they're unable to find the body at this point.
But did she get married to her own? I mean, did she get murdered by her own people?
She got by an employee, is what the articles. But he, as far as we can tell, he was not an atheist.
Well, it's part of her people, though, right? I mean,
yeah, it was a guy that worked in her office.
Her people.
Okay, if you want to call an employee her people.
Yeah, if you want to call a guy that previous to this was convicted or admitted to stealing $50,000 from the organization, one of her people, as opposed to like a creep that got a job there and stole a bunch of money, you can do that. But I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
But go ahead.
Let's see, what was that?
So,
now, bear with me here.
Sure.
The TV here and the atheist thing it was kind of a shock to some people when they're just scanning their television on a holy day.
You consider this a holy day?
Well, on a Sunday, everybody worships.
And you consider this a shock?
And what about all the people that have Sabbath on Saturday?
I'm going to ask a question now before you all start.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And it's just a shock to some people when they, that they're scanning from one preacher to another on TV.
Something I've always wanted to say, atheists have nothing better to do on a day like that. So, this is our day to we got some time. They won't let us work on Sundays at most places, so.
I want to say this.
Sure, go right ahead. Sorry, sir.
That when y'all have an accident, or somebody shoots you, or somebody stabs you, I bet you the first thing that's going to come out of y'all's mouth is, oh, God.
Well,
not really.
Well, I would. My biggest fear is that on my deathbed, I might decide, just for the sake of a few moments of comfort, to completely abandon the process of reason and start to believe in some kind of superstitious something to comfort me. I would hate to die like that, because to me, intellectual integrity is about the only legacy I've got to leave. Now, as I bet you're right. I bet you there are some atheists who, in a situation like that, are just going to be so overwhelmed by terror that they would do a thing like that, and that's unfortunate. The stories that I hear, though, having read, say, internet news groups with atheists talking about this atheists in foxholes issue, they always say, hey, I had that car accident, and the last thing on my mind was whether there was a God or not. The thing on my mind was, I better steer this car so as I don't get killed. So that seems to be the actual facts. Did we lose that guy?
Yeah, I did not cut him off. I'm not sure if the phones went dead or if he hung up, but we did not hang up on you, Ralph.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm sure he meant more than just uttering the words, oh God, but I think I say that all the time anyway.
Well,
I just don't mean it. I mean, oh God is just part of our...
Right.
Excuse me,
I'm getting a message from my floor. Go ahead.
The TV audience can't hear the caller's voice.
Oh, okay.
You couldn't... I'm sorry.
One of those numbered buttons
Ray, you
over there.
You're right. We don't have the phone set up properly there, and the callers wasn't able to hear us over the phone there.
Should I help them out?
Do you want to? I think Brian's doing it.
Oh, Brian. Okay, Brian knows what he's doing.
Yeah, Brian definitely knows what he's doing.
Sorry about that, folks. I hope you got the gist of what...
Okay, really appreciate that. So bear with us.
I still want to call in right now.
Yeah. So we'd love for you to call in just to test us out there. We think we got the bugs worked out there. So, but if you call out and we don't have the bugs worked out, hang in there, keep trying. And
we hope that the audience got the gist of what the guy was talking about based on our responses, which you could hear. But in any case, feel free to call back. Ralph was his name?
Yes.
Ralph, feel free to call back and make your points again, and we'll just let you say them and not.
The point I was he just said it nonchalantly that Sunday's a holy day. Well, it's not to there's just a certain population that it is a holy. There's just as many that have Saturday as a Sabbath, and so we could be doing this on a full moon on a Tuesday. What difference would it make?
And it's an expression of shock. Well, sure, it's going to be startling if you're flipping through the channels and all you see is religious broadcasts, and then you happen to see us. But that's only because, we have something different. But, for that to be shocking means you've got some preconception that that's all you're going to get. And, it's not our fault if we live in a society that has led people to expect that all they're going to get on TV on Sunday mornings is religious broadcasts. That's not our fault.
So, back to our guest there, Arlo. You actually made it in on as a caller on one of the other shows there. And was there anything that you didn't get said there that the point that you'd like to make?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll definitely have to call in their show so they can respond to whatever I have to say. But it's called In Defense of the Faith, and it's three creationists, and they're quite up to par on their scientific vocabulary. But just the way they wire it all together, which disturbs me. They had one thing people will bring up on our show is things don't come from nothing, therefore God came from nothing to make the things come from nothing. And that always bothered me, because how does the God come from nothing? They presented a new variable to it where, God always was. And before I thought, okay, you could say the universe always was, but observations do tell us that the universe did have a beginning, because we are moving towards a heat death, and that would have reached us already if the universe had always been here. But you can plug all kinds of things besides God into it. You can say that our universe sprung off from an even larger universe, which is infinite. Or you could say it's like the Matrix, like someone had called in one day. It's all virtual reality, and the real world is a universe which has always been, which did not need a creator. Or you can say that heat death might have a way to cycle itself back into a singularity and start the whole process over again. Now, sure, this is all highly speculative, but boy, God sure sounds highly speculative to me. So,
and there's the whole question of time. I mean, my understanding is that current models have time coming into existence along with the universe. Right. And so if you say something always existed, that means for the entire duration of time. And if time was a thing that also came into existence, the universe has been here throughout all of time.
In a way, time doesn't exist. Time means nothing without objects and particles being in relation to each other at different speed. So it helps to study, I think, quantum theory. A great book to start out with is Schrodinger's cat. That's one thing that really got me interested in physics.
But the point I'd like to make, though, through all that, you're saying that God was speculative and that was speculative, but we have evidence here that supports the idea for the heat death and everything else. We can show evidence. I've yet to see anybody show any evidence whatsoever for a God. So
that's why they're using logic alone. But as I tried to show, you can use logic to make three other ideas, and that's just me, what I came up with at the top of my head in the past week. I'm sure if the other 6 billion people on the planet would be more rational and put their minds to it, I'm sure they could come up with far better ideas than me.
All right, let's try the phones again. Caller, bear with us if I don't have it going right. It's Mark.
Good morning, gentlemen. This is Mark.
Mark, can you hear us?
Yeah, I've co-authored a graduate-level textbook on quantum mechanics. I heard one of you just mentioning quantum mechanics.
Fantastic.
It's been used at Ivy League schools, California schools, UT, and so on.
Well, what's your full name?
That's not what I was talking about. I just wanted to mention a couple other things about science.
Sure.
Its appearance in the U.S. Constitution.
Science?
Yeah. Article 1, Section 8, one of the enumerated powers of Congress. I can paraphrase here. It says, the Congress shall have the power, and then it lists several things, and among them are that it shall have the power to promote the progress of science and useful art. And I interpret that to mean technology.
Good point.
And yeah, that's a good point. And I'd like to mention to you all why I prefer to put my faith in science, predictions of science. And that is because I haven't become aware of any other general method of making predictions that have been as successful as those of science.
That's right. Excellent point.
And if if you're confronting people who are basing predictions on other methods, you might ask them, well, how successful have their predictions been? When they are trying to predict consequences of actions, are they looking at the record of results of previous trials of similar actions? And if not, then they're just not applying science.
Many people will have their responses to that, but they'll be very weak. Like, I remember a long time ago on a show, a caller said, well, I prayed to find a blue car to buy because it was my first car, and and I found one the next day, and that's their idea of predicting. And
do we have any confirmation that the audience is hearing the caller?
He said it is.
Okay, I missed that. Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
I love the idea that I have someone like an author like that on the line here, and I totally spaced on. I have so many questions for you.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you had a website or some other way I could contact you, I'd be happy to do that.
Can somebody put up the?
We have voicemail, which is 371-2911, and our webpage is atheist-community.org. That's our webpage.
Okay.
Kellen Von Hauser is our webmaster there. She does a great job on that. And you can email us there, or like I say, or you can call our voicemail, 371-2911.
Okay, that's atheist-community.
It's on your screen.
.org. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, see it there on the screen?
I'll get in touch.
Fantastic.
Thanks
you have a great week.
Bye.
for calling.
Okay. Let's go on down to Ed.
Hi there.
Good morning.
I just wanted to ask you guys to comment on, and also if there are any religious people listening, I guess specifically Christians, to explain how they square the fact that they believe in a God who is perfect, but at the same time they believe that their God threatens people with eternal damnation if we don't worship Him and in His Son Jesus Christ. Because it seems to me, if a being was perfect, then there wouldn't be any sort of vanity, along those lines, that they would feel that the need to be worshipped. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And like I said, if any Christians want to call in and explain that, I would appreciate it.
All right, that's a great question for the Christians in the audience.
And to my understanding, Eve picked some fruit, but that's I'm not going to stand by that.
I think I can present. I can present a common argument I've heard from Christians, which is that it is that hell's not like that. Hell is just the state of not being with God, and that's icky. And it's not God forcing that on us to punish us. It's us. If we reject God, well, we wind up spending eternity away from God. The problem there is that if that really is so icky, it's the consequence of conditions that their God set up. So they can't, that temporarily evades the issue, but really that the responsibility still falls back to God. He's the guy that set up the rules. So if in order to not spend the eternity in torment, you've got to turn off your rational thought processes and believe in something for which there is no evidence, well, that's because that being set up the rules that way, and is still responsible if you happen not to want to give up your reason.
Well, just want to remind everyone that we lost the caller again, or he hung out. We appreciate all your phone calls. This is May 30th. We are live, taking your phone calls live on the air. It's Memorial Weekend. We'd love to hear what everybody's doing this weekend, and big plans here. They're out on the boat there. Out on the lake. See, I was driving down 620, and there was tons of boats, man. I'd love to be out there doing it myself. And I see a bunch of callers coming through here while we get names here. Anything else you'd like to share with us there about your phone call
No, I just got a call back when they were having a live show. They've been having reruns lately. But
it just blows me away that anybody, because they constantly stride the fact that the Earth's only 6,000 years old.
It feels good to see what it's like to be a caller, though. So it kind of helps me understand how callers feel. There's three of us. There's actually three of them. They're like the exact opposite of us. It's interesting.
Yeah. I've been channel surfing and caught the show a couple times.
They're easier to talk to than Reverend Ricky. He's the other person.
All right.
I'm not going to get into that.
We have Kevin on the line. Let's see. Kevin?
Yeah.
Good morning.
I was wondering if you could tell me what the difference between atheist and agnostic is. An agnostic and atheist.
All right. Go ahead.
Do it.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. The problem, of course, is that there are multiple definitions of each. The definitions that I like to use are the ones that were explored in a book called Atheism: The Case Against God by Smith. George Smith, I believe, George is his first name. And he went back to the original concept of agnosticism when that term was coined, what it originally meant. And it just meant an expression of the concept that you can't have complete knowledge of things, and so there's uncertainty, and so it was a reluctance to express an opinion on religious issues when that term is applied to religion, due to a sense that you just didn't have enough information to go on. You contrast that with atheism, which is a lack of belief. And so what George Smith came up with was that, well, there are agnostic atheists. There are atheists who do not believe and also say, well, we can't absolutely know for sure, but I don't believe. And then there are also agnostic theists who say, I believe, even though we can't be absolutely sure. Does that make any sense?
Kinda.
Okay.
So what would you would consider yourself just totally atheist?
I consider myself an atheist and agnostic in reference to some gods, but I would not say I was agnostic in reference to all gods. Some gods, by their definition, they're internally inconsistent, and I'm willing to say that those ones just don't exist. That we can be pretty sure they don't.
Right. So
what do you
you'd say there's a possibility of some type of supreme being, then?
Of course, it's possible.
Right.
But that's not the issue. That is the agnosticism issue. The atheism issue is whether you actually believe in that thing or not. Just because it might exist is not a reason necessarily to believe. Some people do anyway. Nowadays, of course, agnosticism is generally a term that people latch onto when really they don't believe, but they don't want to attract the ire of religious people.
So what do you consider yourself, sir? Atheist or agnostic?
I consider myself an agnostic, really. I think that no one really knows. Everyone has their own opinions, and whatever floats your boat.
Well, we have overwhelming amount of evidence for evolution and everything else. So at some point, you got to say, we do know this much.
Well, I'm curious. Let's not corner the guy. I mean, that's a perfectly reasonable, tolerable position to take.
And
if you're happy with that, we're happy with that.
And we meet at the Hot Jumble Bakery. It's free and open to the public, so agnostics are welcome too. And, go ahead, Arlo.
Oh, I just wanted to ask though, are you willing to believe in things for which there is no evidence?
Well, no.
Okay. To me, I like that to be the definition of an atheist. I always thought as someone who will not believe in things for which there is no evidence.
Well, I'd call that the definition of a rationalist.
Rationalist? Okay.
Because you'll get people calling themselves rationalist theists who think that there is evidence, and so they don't think they're violating rationalism to believe in their God.
Sure.
So, it gets messy.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Oh, that's it.
Well, you have a great week.
You too.
Take care.
We're calling, Kevin.
Let's go on down to Buck.
Hi, how are y'all?
Fantastic.
Good. Listen, I'm probably one of those irrational people that, believe in something that I can't prove, but it's not in the Christian sense, but just kind of in the karmic universal sense. I mean, I believe in something bigger than myself, but I don't know what it is. But in the spirit of diversity, I was just wondering if, which, and I think it's great y'all are on and have a forum, but the last experience I ever had really with studying atheism or anything was the Madalyn Murray O'Hara early 80s experience, but
all right.
And I don't know if it's propaganda or not, but she also seemed to be also, racist, bigoted, homophobic, a lot of things like that. Now, is the Atheist Community of Austin is an organization? I guess, do you call yourselves an organization?
Yes, we do. We're a nonprofit organization.
Do you have tenets of your organization or things that you...
Yes, we do. That's a great point. We haven't read that on the show for a while. I'd love to... it's right in our... I don't have one handy, but it's right in our bylaws. We do not discriminate against race, creed, sexual orientation. No, I don't think creed's in there. Sorry.
No, yeah, we do discriminate against creed. We don't let Christians join our atheist group. We got to have some kind of standards.
That's slipped right through there, sir. Sorry about that.
No, I understand.
But national origin, sexual orientation, all that. We have several gay in the group. So we're quite inclusive to the. Yeah, when we say community, we mean community.
And people of different races. But I want to respond to O'Hare, though, because I heard O'Hare speaking about the problems with America when it first started, because people say they want to go back to the good old days, 200 years ago. And she always complained of how horrible it was, but of how racist we were, and how we mistreated women and gays and everything else, burning them with the witches. To my idea, it seemed like she wasn't racist at all.
You get different opinions from different people.
I'm not sure what you saw, but from what I've seen,
I did. It was something in the Austin American Statesman. Like I said, it was probably propaganda. I have no personal experience that she was like that, and I didn't mean to defame her in any way. I'm just saying that when they were going through her, personal belongings and her diaries, they were saying that the Austin American Statesman put this big article in there about she had made, racist statements or homophobic statements or, whatever statements she made. Like I said, but nothing that ever came from her personally. I mean, I don't know what her personal beliefs were outside of the organization, but.
Yeah. I never got to meet the woman either.
All I know about her is seeing her TV show once, shortly after I moved to Austin, and I just thought she was kind of creepy.
Okay. Well, on your website, does it have your tenants organization, and are people allowed to come to your meetings that are just wanting to learn?
Exactly.
Sure.
It's free and open to the public. We always like meeting the new people.
Great.
So,
thank you very much.
All right. You have a great week. Just a reminder, that's Hot Jumble Bakery down at West 5th and Lavaca. And as soon as we're done here, we head down there. So we're there by 11 o'clock. We got a bunch of callers here.
Joe Zamecki?
Oh, is it?
Joe Zamecki on line one.
Joe?
Good morning.
Hey, Joe.
How's it going? It's been a while.
Fantastic, man. Glad to hear from you.
Yeah, I took a little break for a while there, but anyway, I didn't get who the guest was today.
Arlo.
Oh, great. And Jeff, and how's it going, everybody?
Fantastic.
Call screener? Wow, okay, great.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been keeping up to date on the O'Hara story.
Well, I heard there was a story recently in the Statesman and the San Antonio Express News recently, but I didn't get to see it. But someone told me about it, and it sounded like the same basic story.
Yeah, the big difference now is that there is an affidavit where the government is alleging that Waters killed him.
An affidavit, and that would be based on Carr's testimony, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
So
who knows?
Okay. We're having a lot of trouble hearing you.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'll talk a little louder.
Yeah, that helps.
So, did you ever get to meet Waters?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Folks, Joe works with American Atheists. Just to introduce him to the audience here, and he was the former co-host. He was the co-host for a year for American Atheists moved to New Jersey. So that's what we're. So if he says anything, you can take it. Go ahead.
What's that? You want me to comment on it?
No, I got tongue-tied there. Sorry.
He's building you up as an official representative.
No. No, we read the papers and learn about it the same way everybody else does, and we're anxious to find out and close the book on this mystery. But we move on, and we've got a whole lot of other activities going on, and but I did want to read something here that kind of irked me. I saw this in the Washington Post recently.
Sure.
Friday. A story about a kind of a troublemaker student in a high school in Annapolis, Maryland, and he had caused some troublemaking. He didn't like to conform. He's a nonconformist, so to speak. Okay, and the whole school knew that. Well, there was a little controversy recently because he was a senior, and last Wednesday was their graduation ceremony, and they were planning on having an organized prayer out loud said during the ceremony. And this kid, and his name is Nick Becker, and he went to the faculty and protested and said that this is called unconstitutional in many court cases. And so it shouldn't be done. Obviously, it's kind of blatant. Well, they struck a bargain. They struck a deal. The student who was going to be speaking and who was going to be sort of like the aficionado of the whole ceremony agreed to go ahead and just have a moment of silence for about 30 seconds instead of having an out-loud organized prayer. Well, the time came to have the moment of silence, and everybody got quiet, and then all of a sudden, starting with one voice, someone started praying, and it was the Lord's Prayer. And let me just read here. It started with a loud, clear voice, a man's voice, and it spread quickly through the hall, picking up the tenors of teenage boys, whispers of young girls, and throaty voices of grandmothers, because parents and other relatives were there too. With each word, it grew more determined, and so they prayed, and the defiant group, thousands strong, ignored a school ban on prayer and insisted that God be part of a Calvert County High School graduation ceremony Wednesday night. And, they have a subtitle line for this story up here up top. It's called Prayer and Punishment, and then there's a subtitle, Crowd Makes God Part of Graduation, Teen Protester is Shut Out of Festivities. What happened was he got disgusted with it, as I would, and he left. He left the ceremonies, and he tried to go back in when the prayer was over to get his diploma, and he was not allowed to re-enter the ceremony. And the person who did not allow him to go back in was a police officer. There were state police officers outside, apparently. I don't know why. But they stopped him from going in. So what he did was he said, okay, and he went around the side of the building and tried to go into another entrance. He was stopped again by the same police officer. And he was ordered to leave. Well, he said, I'm graduating. I'm a senior, and I'd like to go and get my diploma. I have a diploma in there, and his parents were in there, and so they didn't let him go back in. When he argued, they threw him in the back of the police car. And didn't arrest him, technically, but they detained him. His parents came out afterwards, and the school officials got with him and his parents, and they gave him his diploma outside of the building. And it just bothered me that, the police officer, they all kind of knew him, and they all kind of felt he was a troublemaker. They thought he was going to go and disrupt the whole ceremony.
But the ceremony had already been disrupted.
Exactly.
By these 1,000 people praying when the school had ruled that they wouldn't have a prayer.
Exactly. Yeah, and anybody can go to a library and find information about the case precedent that's been set in court cases that declared that ceremonies like this should not have organized prayer out loud because it's unconstitutional. There was a quote here, though, from one of the county commissioners, the county commissioner president, Linda Kelly, who's a Republican from Owings, Maryland, I guess. Quote, this is a church-going community, and no one in Annapolis or Washington, D.C. is going to tell us when and where we can pray, unquote. And then he said, he joined in also. All the commissioners were there on stage joining in the prayer. And he said again, quote, the school administrators did the legal thing and complied with the law, but the audience took this one over. So that's, he's gotten with the ACLU in Maryland, and there was a quote from the ACLU director. Suzanne Smith from the ACLU said, quote, a student was arrested because he disagreed with the majority, and he tried to address that in a responsible way, adding that no charges have been filed against Becker, although state police said yesterday a complaint might still be forthcoming. They said being detained in the back of the police car was equivalent to arrest, and I agree. Legally, it is, basically. And then they went on, the ACLU said the real loser here is the Constitution and the right of people to express dissent. They're going to investigate this. So it's something to think about.
Yeah.
It seems like, if they want to prove to the world that they're honest and loving people, they certainly didn't do it this time. But I think we all should have a right to dissent and complain about these things, voice our complaints, or leave when we're forced to endure prayers in a public situation like that. and it's really sad that he had to miss out on hearing his name being called and not being able to go up and get the diploma. But we try. We're good people, though. Anyway, sorry to be a downer.
No, it's a great report, and because I missed the story altogether, and it's amazing, that would happen today, but
that's what life is like for atheists.
Yes.
This is the Atheist Experience. That's what this show was about. The world is full of Christians who do not mind exerting their power as a majority to keep atheists down.
And let's remember that this was not only inconsiderate to atheists, but just any religion that's not that specific, true. That doesn't go along with that specific prayer, they decided that they had the right to do just because they're the majority.
The tyranny of the majority, yes.
Exactly.
Well, there's one other little part of this also.
Sure.
In addition to that, he was barred from a post-graduation boat cruise for which he paid $45.
Wow.
They were going to take a cruise around, I guess, down the Potomac, and they paid money, and he's been barred from that. They said that he would be a troublemaker and disrupt that too.
That's sad.
But the rules have been established. He wasn't the troublemaker. Right. The 1,000 people that started praying during the moment of silence were the troublemakers. I guess they just didn't have 1,000 police cars.
Well, and the principal of this high school also said, quote, "Quite frankly, I'd like to include the invocation in the ceremonies." So the guy, the principal of the school supported it. And it just seems to me if the man can't read the Constitution and understand it and understand case law, then he shouldn't be the principal of a public high school. But that being said, we should all think about these things. Tolerance for people who think differently. I have no idea if this student is an atheist or not. He could be a Christian. It doesn't say in the article.
That's true.
He could be Jewish, he could be Hindu, he could be Muslim, he could be all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
The fact was, he's not a Christian. Well, he could be a Christian again, but he didn't want to endure those prayers and felt it was wrong and did the right thing by just leaving. If they thought that he was going to disrupt the thing, it's silly. I mean, if he was going to disrupt it, he would have.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He left. So we move on, and we tolerate and endure other people's differences and smile. And public places like this, I think a school is for education.
Exactly.
I don't think a person should be allowed into a school unless they have an educational purpose being there. But anyway, hey, the weather's great up here.
It's hot as hell down here.
It's finally warm out there in New Jersey?
Yes, actually, I had to turn on my air conditioner first time
right.
this year.
Well, I was going to say, would you like for us to put it on hold?
Yeah, I want to hear for a while.
All right, man.
Thanks
you have a great week.
See you later, Austin.
Bye, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Put him back on hold so he can listen to us. All right, let's go on down to Florence.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to see y'all and speak with y'all again.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I was sorry to hear about Miss O'Hara. And did I understand you to say that they have not found a body?
That's correct.
Okay, so we don't know that she's passed on, that she's dead.
They're pretty sure now.
I don't know how the law works, but there's apparently strong enough evidence that they're willing to put together an affidavit to submit to a judge so they can get a search warrant to go look around.
Okay. Well, the reason I called in is because I had a lot of respect for Miss O'Hara. It's hard to stand up and speak of what you think as the truth against a majority of the people that don't agree. So I did respect her, and I did look at her programs. I wish I had recorded them. I hope AC run them again. And I didn't find her as a racist at all. I really didn't. I found her to be strong in what she believed in, and she didn't mind calling whatever it was, So I just wanted to say that, I'm sorry that, we won't be in grace with her presence anymore, because I think she was a beautiful person, and I did enjoy listening to her speak. And I hope y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much for calling.
Yes, there we go. We got testimony from someone who actually knew the woman.
I watched her show more times than me, and probably has a better, more accurate view than mine.
So it's nice to hear, because I've heard bad things, but also good things about her. So it's nice to hear the good things too. Let's go on down to AJ.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I'd like to approach this from another standpoint, from the Christian viewpoint.
Sure.
and I'd like to throw a couple of things at you. First of all, I think the reference you made as hotter than hell, I'd really be curious as to what you base that on.
Second, I've actually seen tongue-in-cheek articles written by geophysicists about, there's some reference to rocks melting or something, a certain kind of rock. They've figured out how hot hell ought to be given what it says in the Bible.
And there's also a hell Michigan, so we're actually hotter than hell Michigan right now.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, no,
are
Arlo
you familiar with Einstein's premise that man has only 1% of absolute knowledge?
If anybody puts a number on it, I find that hard to believe, because then if they can put a number on it, then they know how much total knowledge is, and we don't know what the total knowledge is, so you can't put a percentage.
Would you at least accept the figure that mankind certainly doesn't have 100% absolute knowledge? Would you agree with that?
Of course.
We all agree with that.
It's not the case that your atheistic position is that of, until it's proven or until there's evidence that fits right with your standards of scientific testing is really what it is, which isn't possible with this subject because of the lack of ability to repeat the same thing over and over.
The definition I like is no beliefs on or about the supernatural.
In any case, just about any religious claim could be proved scientifically.
Let me say this:
the way that Christians tend to dodge that is they immediately start, reading motives into God's behavior and say, "Oh, God will not submit himself for testing." Well, but if you're going to make up some being and then say, well, you can't prove that he exists because the being will hide himself and make it so there's no evidence, well, then you're dealing with a being that is basically playing a big game with humanity and hiding under behind a bush so nobody can find him. Let's leave him alone.
How many times have the three of you there on the panel seen the sun at night? Does that mean it's not there? How many of you have seen wind? I have, and I've seen the effects of wind. Okay. How many of you have seen electricity? And how many of you can explain what electricity is?
I saw electricity a couple of weeks ago when we had that big electrical storm. Actually, a couple of days ago.
Well, actually,
there's some major lightning going on. I understand your point.
That's not electricity, sir. That's the effect of electricity.
Okay, fine. I understand your point.
And let me explain this. Let me suggest this.
This is a guy who's not going to let us talk. So what are we going to do about it?
Go ahead.
No, he's going to give you the chance there. He heard you, so go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I understand your point, but here's the thing. Given that there's all kinds of stuff we don't know, right? And given that only a finite number of things are actually true, right? I mean, if there's some planet orbiting another star, it looks one way and no other way, right? There are a finite number of ways that planet can look, and it's one way that it actually looks. But we could imagine it to look an infinite number of different ways. Okay? So my point here, what I'm getting at, is that when we don't know about something, all that tells us is of the infinite number of answers there could be to that question, we don't know which one is the right one. And that means we shouldn't be jumping to conclusions. And so to say that because it is possible that God exists, which under certain definitions of God, I would agree with that.
But that's an agnostic point of view. That's not atheistic. Is it?
No, I'm not finished yet.
Go ahead.
Given that it's possible, okay, that possibility is not a good reason to believe that he does exist. Okay? Evidence is a good reason to believe that things are a certain way, because evidence points toward exactly what way things are. If you don't have any evidence, then there are an infinite number of possibilities, and you can't just start picking them and saying those are the ones we're going to believe in, because chances are you're wrong.
Okay, now it's your turn, sir.
All right, now, you certainly, if you had your house blow down, there would be some evidence of wind, whether you saw it or not.
Sure. Okay.
All right, now, certainly we're asked as Christians to be blind faith believers, frankly, because it's not our Father's job to prove that he is worthy. It's our job to prove that we're worthy children. Now, this is, of course, if you go by Scripture. Now, let me also say this.
I'd like to comment. I'd like to respond to that, too, just shortly, if I could.
It's your show.
It seems to me it is the responsibility of any being, no matter who it is, no matter how powerful it is, if it wants the respect
and worship in case of your God. If it wants respect from other beings, it is that being's responsibility to show that it deserves that respect. Okay? And based on your Bible, your God doesn't, but go on.
Okay, my comment is that the respect that our Father showed us was to send His Son to the planet Earth in mortal flesh to die on the cross for our sins. Now, that's if you believe in Scripture, but let's keep that from the side. Either you're a believer in God or you're an evolutionist. There's no gray. Would you agree with that?
No.
There's quite a few Christians that believe in evolution.
I beg your pardon?
There's quite a few people that say they're religious.
Well, they're liars. They're obvious liars. You can't. I mean, those that say that they're Christian.
Okay, so you're a there's only a certain kind of true Christians kind of guy, right?
I beg your pardon?
You're saying anybody who believes in evolution is not a true Christian?
Oh, absolutely not. That they hate God. Frankly, God says that that's not the case.
I have friends that are very devoted to God, but they find evolution a very valid theory.
Well,
but they're lying to me, right?
But you've got to understand that God says from the first sentence that He created the earth that it did not evolve. Now, of course, that's the insinuation with the statement He created the earth and everything that has to go with it.
Because you decided.
And I've never met one evolutionist, and perhaps you'd like to consider this on the panel, that could explain to me how, for instance, a platypus evolved. And then, less difficult, how a giraffe evolved. And if you have any understanding as to the makeup on a giraffe and what it takes for the blood pressure to be pumped from the heart up the neck to the head, with the complicated
are you suggesting that giraffes violate laws of physics?
I beg your pardon?
Are you suggesting that giraffes violate laws of physics?
No,
that they couldn't exist unless God was using some magical power to get that blood there?
Well, absolutely. There's no way that the giraffe could evolve. Because
you want us to explain that?
You guys laugh, but if you're familiar,
okay, I will explain.
There's a complicated series of valves involved that can evolve without the giraffe originally blowing his head off, killing the species out altogether.
Wrong. Your statement is just wrong. You don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
it just shows your lack of understanding on the true theory of evolution.
Okay, so explain to me where the giraffe came from and how it evolved. Considering the length of the neck and that it's got a heart the size of a basketball, and that it's got a sponge retainer at the top of its neck that will hold blood so that when the giraffe bends over to take a drink of water, those valves will shut it off, leaving blood to his brain so that he can remain conscious. Now, if these valves weren't in place, the giraffe, by the tremendous blood pressure, would blow his head off. Now, if you think I've got that wrong, go to the University of Texas and find out.
What you've got wrong is the idea that one day there was a giraffe with a short neck that didn't have any of those features, and the next day there was a giraffe with a long neck that had all of those features. What you are missing is the millions of years of evolution where giraffes, the ones that were able to survive in their environment, were the ones who had progressively longer necks. And when the ones that had progressively longer necks, the ones of those that survived were the ones that had more and more of these features that you're talking about that make those long necks work.
Now, the word you use is progressive. Now, that implies to me that there's a time period involved that would deny the fact that these valves would come into place without the death of the species.
What are you talking about? Like I just explained to you that the valves do not come into existence like immediately like that.
Okay, and assuming that they don't, what's going to keep the species surviving?
Okay,
every time
I got a giraffe with a short neck who doesn't need that valve, right? Right?
So you say. Hypothetically,
suppose we start with a giraffe with a short neck that doesn't need that valve.
Right.
Right? Then you got a giraffe with a slightly longer neck. Does it need that valve yet? Well, what it needs, in fact, is something slightly more like that valve, because it has a tiny fraction of the problem that you're talking about. It can still exist, but it would be better. No, but let me finish. It could still exist. It could still live, but it's moving toward needing those things, which means of all the zillions of giraffes out there that have the slightly longer necks, the ones that have something slightly more like that valve are the ones that do better. And those are the ones that exist. And then their next generation, you've got the slightly longer necks, and the ones of the ones of those that can reach the higher leaves that have more of available food supply live, and those are the ones that need the slightly more complicated valves. Do you understand? It does not have. You keep saying that that one day they have to have short necks and no valves.
No, I never.
And the next day they have to have long necks and no valves, and their heads explode. And it doesn't work that way.
No, that was your imaginary giraffe. I never suggested that they were born with short necks. That was your deal.
Okay, well then you're suggesting that they never existed with short necks, and then. And I don't know where you're coming from.
Arlo has a point, and I have a point too. But Arlo has a point.
Well, there's two misunderstandings here, and Jeff was tackling one, but the other one is that you're assuming that they'll go extinct. They don't. The whole population isn't mutating together at once. It's a balance. It's gene fluctuation among the species. That keeps the species safe because they're in numbers. They're not just going to suddenly drop off. There's a short neck variation of giraffes. I saw it myself at the San Antonio Zoo. I never knew such a thing existed. I was amazed. There's an animal. It has a body almost of a zebra, but it has the ears, the tongue, the nose, the eyes, everything the same as a giraffe, even the patterns on the upper part of the head. It was amazing to see such a thing. But anyway, I mean, it's like people who say, if we came from apes, why are there still apes? They didn't all move towards humanity. It's just a population out of the whole population in Africa.
It's like different. That section of the population was under different conditions, where it needed to develop in different ways to track the way that environment was changing, so the whole species could continue to survive there.
Okay, and the point I'd like to make is if you was able to take the DNA back from, so if you trace it far enough back, you keep going farther and farther and farther back till you found it all the way back to the single cell amoebas all the way back. So it all depends on how far back in its history do you want to go before you say that's a pre-giraffe giraffe. If you want to go all the way back to where the fish is in the ocean, you can trace them all the way back to the fishes in the ocean. So it just depends on how far back you want to go.
If anybody knows the name of the animal, the short-necked giraffe I'm trying to describe, please call in and tell us, because it's something worth looking up for people who don't believe in short-necked giraffes.
So anyway, if you go back to
I wasn't one of those parties that don't believe in short-necked giraffes.
Okay, it's imaginary.
I didn't deny that. That's perhaps another species, and I'm not familiar with myself.
Okay, but the point I was going to make, so you go far enough back, and this animal has got 80% of the genes that the giraffe that now has. So we'll back and pick it up at that point. Well, through the mutations that's going through there, you end up one that's got 82% of the genes. Well, that animal can no longer breed with the one that's 80%. You see what I'm saying? So it's already separating out. But the one that's 80% is still alive. There's still a population of the people, of those animals that are pre-giraffe, that are 80% giraffe. They are still alive.
Guys, can I interject this so we don't waste your listeners' time, because I'm sure there are other callers that want to get in. Let's just say this. It's my position that atheists endorse evolution simply because of what you showed thus far with your presentations. But aside from this evolution thing, I want to get back to the deal about the fact that it's my position that atheists do not believe in something that they cannot or have not seen evidence of. Would you agree with that?
That's one definition, sure.
And you guys seem to be fairly educated, and
Thank you.
I've given you this position about the things that you've not seen that you knew were factual. I don't know how many of you saw your
own. Wait a minute. Just because I can't see the wind doesn't mean...
I don't know how... Excuse me, was my turn right?
Because wind is not...
It was my turn,
no
right?
matter. It's a definition of the effect.
Yes, that's exactly right. But just because it's a definition of the effect doesn't mean that it's not an actual physical entity.
We're not denying the existence of wind. So your premise that atheists would have to deny... What happened to our picture? We just lost a camera. Can we switch to another camera?
Blame it on me.
No, it's not your fault, sir. We can still talk. I think we're still...
Instant karma, baby.
I think we still got audio going out. I'm going to respond to this.
Is it dark down there?
What?
Is it dark down there?
No. There we go. Okay.
Listen, my point was...
Now I'm going to respond.
The whole panel, all you guys obviously had birth mothers, and I suggest that neither one of you saw your own birth, and does that deny the fact that you were born?
Okay. First of all, your premise...
Are your lights back on yet?
Yeah. Can you see us?
Okay.
Yeah, could you see us that whole time?
No,
it wasn't our lights, though.
No,
it was just there was no picture going out. We don't know what that was.
God didn't strike down the lights. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Your premise that the way we think ought to lead us to deny the existence of wind since we don't deny the existence of wind, that just shows that you don't understand the premise we're working from.
Yeah, you're selective with your denials is all it is.
That happened again. Would you guys stop playing with the switches?
You see?
No. What do you mean, do we see? Could you stop taking credit for random events that have nothing to do with you?
Well, how many times has it happened on the air today until this call?
Oh, right. We screw with the Christians.
Let's set up an experiment to test whether you have the power to make the picture go out. Do it now.
I have no power whatsoever.
Okay, good. Now, let's move on. What you're doing is you're grabbing the word see and saying, well, if you don't see it, you can't believe it. But that's just a handy term for sensing in general, okay? Having knowledge of stuff in general. Would you shut up?
Please educate me as to what...
All right, that's it. Lose this guy.
Crazy.
Lose this guy. He's an idiot.
All right, you have a great week.
I'm sorry, I don't get pissed off too often. I mean, enough to call people idiots on the show, but that guy pissed me off.
Well, taking credit for the picture.
Now.
That's a bit too much.
Now.
We've had
the word see is just a handy colloquialism for having evidence. It doesn't mean we're limited to the sense of sight. If we can smell that something exists, that's valid. If we can touch something and know it exists, that's valid. If we can build a machine that can do the sensing for us, that's valid. Excellent. The fact is, no sense and no machine that we've ever built to detect things that we ourselves can't sense and do it for us, none of that has ever come up with a shred of evidence that there's a God.
And the wind is not an entity.
Yeah, I don't.
Go ahead.
Oh, what was I saying?
We
have another caller?
Excellent point. I'm convinced of the evidence on electrons and protons and everything else, and there's no way any of us can see. Well, that's not true. We got electron microscopes now that supposedly get down and start seeing protons and stuff, but down to the molecular level.
If there's a phenomenon happening that we can detect, that's God, right? Well, like, for example, that would be, praying for a certain outcome from a normally random situation and seeing that you get the result that you prayed for. But in fact, that doesn't happen. There have been some studies that suggested that prayer might affect medical situations, but there have been follow-up studies that looked at those studies and said, well, in fact, these were really badly constructed studies that were biased and gave a false result. Okay? I mean, it's important to really care about the way you're collecting your evidence, to really be objective as you possibly can, and really be serious about whether there's any evidence or not. And when you start doing stuff like that last caller was doing and saying, because the word see is in there, then, well, obviously you can't believe anything that doesn't have a visual component to its existence, then you're, that... It just shows that guy didn't give a flying hoot what was true and what wasn't.
They've pulled that one a lot. We've had a lot of callers, just like you. Picture didn't flash off, unless you're the only one who's right.
Yeah, and it just happened again since he got off.
Thousands of callers.
Okay, I thought. Are you done? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. All right, let's go on to Mike then. Mike?
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Mike.
That last call sort of gets your blood boiling a little bit, but
yeah, sorry about that. I apologize to him too. I shouldn't have flipped out.
Well, I'm going to make a couple comments. One was about the prayer at the high school. I don't have my Bible. I can't seem to find it, but there is a passage in there. I think Matthew chapter 6, maybe chapter 6, verse 5, or vice versa, where it says, you're not supposed to pray in public. Only hypocrites do.
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't these people read their Bible and do what it tells them to do? Don't pray in public. They always seem to ignore that. Even our Governor Bill or Bush here does the same thing, where he wants to get prayer in public, but the Bible says you shouldn't pray in public. So enough said about that. Now about the atheist and agnostic, I'm like you, Jeff, and there it goes.
I don't know. You're the chosen one.
You are the chosen one, yes.
Okay, they're still working on it. I'm glad that you guys at home can still see the show.
I guess I consider myself agnostic because I don't know if there's God or not. There may be, but I don't know. But the Bible is a bunch of bull. Any God represented by the Bible does not exist. I'm an atheist, any Christian, because their God does not exist, period. If you read the Bible, it's evident that he does not exist. There's too many contradictions. This guy calling about evolution, if he doesn't believe in evolution, have him explain how God created two people, Adam and Eve, how do we get so many different races today? If he created two people and evolution doesn't exist, how do we get the diversity of humans on this planet today?
Well,
if he doesn't believe in evolution,
I'd like him to explain, why it was okay for those two to have incest.
exactly, the whole family. I mean, and then after Noah's Ark, incest again. Yeah. Again, Noah's Ark, have him explain how Noah got, depending upon which part of the Bible you read, either 2 of every animal or 7, there we go again, or 7 of every animal, how he got that many of every single animal on this planet on his ark, which was, 100 cubits long or something like that, maybe a football field long. Have them explain how that happens. And they can't. To me, anyone who believes in the Bible and puts faith in that thing is it's like you say, Jeff is an idiot. I'm sorry, but
I shouldn't have said that. Let's not be quoting me when I'm trying to backpedal from flipping out that guy. Okay?
Yeah, but people like that.
I've apologized. I don't mean that he's an idiot. He's not an idiot. He's a guy who believes some stuff on the basis of principles for approaching knowledge that I think are deeply flawed.
But he's irrational. And he's quoting the Bible, he's quoting Scripture, but yet, if he reads the entire Bible, he'll realize that for every Scripture he quotes, we can find something else that contradicts what he just quoted.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't realize that, and to me, if you don't realize that, then you are, quote, an idiot, end quote.
Okay. Well, that's you saying
that now. People like that, it gets me boiled up, and I'm ready to call names, too, because they don't listen to reason. And that's the only way to deal with them. I'm sorry to rant like this, but he's got me going too.
Well, I appreciate your call.
I'm done. Bye-bye.
You have a great week.
And doesn't the Bible also describe a closet you pray in? Or something?
Yeah,
you have to shut the door behind you. And then we have this march for we have March for Jesus, people getting on the news and in the paper.
Yeah.
Completely the opposite.
Yeah, I think our society could stand a lot more people publicly disparaging some of these goofy belief systems and some of these goofy ways that people go about deciding what is true. I think that would be good for our society, but probably shouldn't use the word idiot.
All right. It's going down to Mary.
Good morning, Atheist.
Good morning, Mary.
Well, I wanted to talk about quantum mechanics, okay? Right. When I first started caring about and being interested in science, quantum mechanics was something that was barely thought about except for the theoretical physicists. They were the only ones who even acknowledged that there might be such a field as quantum mechanics. Well, now it turns out that quantum mechanics may be what's holding us together, okay? It keeps us from flying off into molecules and atoms and even smaller particles than that. And they didn't know anything about it even like 20 years ago, okay? So much less the Bible. And the Bible, I've got it right here in my hand, and I'm going to read you the first 2 verses. Please don't get mad at me, okay?
Okay, quickly.
All right. They are short. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's the first one. The second one is, and the earth was without form and void, and that turns out to be important. Okay. And darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And that's the word right there that blows the whole thing right out of the water in the first 2 verses. Okay? Water is a very crucial molecular form. It's like a little boomerang, and it's the connection for a lot of chemical processes that are really fundamental to us being here, to even listening to me, to even watching you. And it mentions the word there without understanding all of these processes, which scientifically in the first 2 verses, the Bible's out of the running, okay?
It contradicts itself right off the bat, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm more concerned where this water is if the earth hasn't been created yet.
Yeah, where is this form?
Why it's
where's
liquid?
Where's the void if there's the form of water, okay?
Exactly.
Right out of the water.
In fact, we know the answer to that. That is based on earlier mythologies that predated Judaism. They believed like other non-Christian mythologies have believed that all the land we know is floating in some giant ocean that's everywhere, or it's on the back of a turtle or some other nonsense like that. That was the nature of the universe, they thought. Well, there's the water, and then there's the sky, and so they got God floating over the water and making the land.
right? He's
That's
their
where they got
a
it
priori for what they don't know is on the other side of this knowledge. And I'm not afraid of it. And that's the key right there, is the fear. Okay, one more thing I wanted to say. When Joe was talking about that kid up in New Jersey that they wouldn't let back into the school, okay, we can be flip about it and say, oh, well, he had a hard time, but he'll get over it. No, I think it was more traumatic than that, because if you've ever been in that situation where you've been against the majority, they come off like pod people, okay?
Oh yeah, I'd like to have any Christian out there imagine being in their graduation ceremony from school and all the people around them stand up and start saying Muslim prayers.
Yeah.
Just imagine that.
It would be like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And that's probably how that kid experienced it. And that's my concern, is what we're taking into the future inside of ourselves, okay?
Yeah. He brought a good point. He was probably ostracized by the rest of the students there. You know, I'm sure he didn't get invited to any of the graduation parties. He got kicked off the boat trip.
That's what bothers me about the whole thing, the cruelty down here on the ground, okay, that we have to wade through every day. It's just getting to be a really tremendous bore. And I'm really hoping for a new paradigm, okay? That's my hope. But that's just me. Anyway, thanks a lot. Bye.
Have a great week.
Thanks for calling, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
I want to talk about water some more. I just thought of a couple of neat things. I just realized, and I think you were about to mention this, that for there to be water before the sun, it'd be frozen.
Right.
It wouldn't even be a liquid.
It could have a face, but people don't even talk about waters when it's ice. They talk about ice. But
there's something else that I haven't found it in the Bible. Maybe I misread the Bible, but I've heard from many Christians that before Noah's flood, it didn't rain. It never rained.
I've never heard that.
I've heard that from many Christians, and ones who don't go to the same church. So I think somehow that's derived from the Bible. I didn't get it. But, I mean, that's completely against the laws of physics. That's disbelieving in precipitation. I mean, the heat moves the molecules, they shake around, and pieces get buoyant in the air. But I guess God was holding down the water, just because all those oceans. How can you not have precipitation?
Once you postulate the existence of a supernatural goofball who can interfere with the laws of physics, then anything could happen. And there's no such thing as rationally finding out what the laws of physics are, because at any moment, the laws of physics that you see happening might in fact not be what they would do naturally without God. They might be some special manifestation of God doing a specific thing. And that's where we get Christians trying to take credit for any random thing that happens to happen and call it a miracle if it's good. 100 people die in an airplane, one guy lives, that's a miracle. No. It's just the way that the things happened. And in fact, what that is a horrifying tragedy that 100 people got killed.
Yes. All right. Let's go on to Michael.
I believe in miracles. They came along. Ray Blevins, Atheist Experience. Ha!
Thank you.
Is that the same person? Or?
Yeah, it's the same one we get every time.
That was kind of cool.
Yes.
Wow.
More.
They keep it short. They keep their prank calls short.
Yes. Yeah, as long as they keep it short like that. A little comic relief never hurt anybody.
I do think we should record them and use them as the opening music one of these times.
I have it on tape, so
I
record it every time.
Okay, let's go on to Robert. Robert? Oh.
No, Robert.
Robert?
Hello?
Sorry, you hit the wrong button.
Okay. I just had a question.
Sure.
If you are atheist, right?
Yes, I am. Sure.
Okay. Then how was man created?
Well, you're away. You're
starting with by chance. We were just thrown on Earth.
Can I respond? You asked me about
Yeah. Go ahead, because I
remember
want
what happened to that last guy. You got to let us talk.
Go ahead.
You started in right away with the word created. Okay, you're presupposing that mankind had to have been created. Okay, and that's your problem. Because if you ask how could mankind be created, and we start describing evolution to you, evolution is not a process of creation in the sense that like a sculptor takes clay and creates a sculpture of a guy.
Okay, but for every cause there is an effect, right?
Well,
no, that is your own personal experience. You can't prove that assumption.
Okay, I can't prove an assumption. Okay, if you take a pot of boiling water and you put some noodles in there, they will cook, right? If it's
That's proven experience,
That's
right?
cause and that's effect, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
there is
So
universes out there where there is not. You can imagine a universe where there is one where you can have cause without effect.
Okay, give me an example.
No, you can't have cause
Yes.
without effect
Give
because
me an
effect is a thing that got caused. Look, the problem is if you postulate God as the explanation for why there is anything, right? Saying that everything had to come from something, and so way at the beginning we're going to say it's God to stop us from having a problem of infinite regress. The problem with that is that you then also have to explain where God came from. It doesn't solve the question.
Okay, and then
where did God come from? I'm sorry, Ray.
Where did God come from?
Yeah, where did God come from?
Eternity to eternity.
No, see, that's the problem.
He doesn't have
it. Do we have an example of anything that is eternal like that? The problem is you just said everything we see has a cause.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, then we don't see God, do we?
No, we don't see God.
So there's no God.
Oh, just like you said.
But just like you said, if we don't see the wind, there is no wind.
No. Let's expand that. We do not sense God in any way whatsoever.
We don't sense the wind either.
Yes, we do sense the wind. It blows on our faces.
Yeah.
Now, don't go sidetracking on me.
I'm not sidetracking.
Okay. If your argument is that we have an unsolved question, which is where everything came from, and you say that's a problem because everything that we can sense, everything we know about, has a cause. You can't stick God in there and say that He explains it, because God becomes a thing. God becomes that exception that you don't want there to be. What if the exception is that universes come into existence without a cause?
Okay, I won't stick God in there, but who made you?
Made? What do you mean by made?
Why are you sitting there? Why? How were you made? Period.
What grade?
Well, do we need to have a biology class now?
Right. Okay.
And who made your mom?
Go study
who
biology.
Who made your father?
Let me get back.
It had to be someone to start you out, which was Adam and Eve. Now, who made Adam and Eve?
Okay, I understand the point you're going to. So let me, because we're running out of time.
We've already dispensed with this guy's argument.
Go ahead. Because you started off with what was the first cause?
Hey, hold on.
Okay, it's my show.
First of all, I have a difference of opinion as you do, right?
Right.
Okay, so because you don't like my opinion, I'm not talking to you, but the guy that's sitting beside you. Because you don't like my opinion, that doesn't make it wrong.
No, your opinion is wrong because it doesn't make any sense.
Somebody put up psycho
your
something
opinion is
on the
wrong
screen.
because it doesn't make any sense. It has nothing to do with my opinion of it.
You don't make sense to me.
Okay.
Well, that's
So
I am thinking rationally, and you're not.
I should get
now,
mad
if
at
you want to
right?
say that I am therefore being unfair to you, or that
you're rude. Period.
Well, I'm just telling you that what is going on.
And I'm just telling you, for every cause there has to be effect, and you don't make any sense to me.
Okay, but you are not saying that every cause has to have an effect, because then you invoke God, and that is a cause without an effect. So you are contradicting yourself.
That's what I believe. That's what I believe.
Okay, you can believe whatever you want.
Like you believe that nothing created you.
You're free to believe whatever you want, sir. Since if that's the issue, nobody's telling you can't believe what you want to believe.
Okay, can you switch back to him?
Ray wants to say something.
Yeah, let him finish.
Please go.
Okay, I think you start off. You should make the argument about first cause and everything, and that everything had a cause and a reason beforehand. So you're saying everything that we see today, everything that happened beforehand, is what brought us to the point that we're at today. Is that what you're saying?
Of course.
So you're saying that all those people that died before us and everything else, that all that is here just so you Christians could enjoy this moment.
You Christians? Hold on, let me get that right. Let me get that straight. I don't have a religion.
Okay.
I am not a Christian or a Baptist
the point I'm trying to make is just how
theists. Say theists.
Theists then. You're saying that is all there just because God wanted you guys to or those theists to have this particular earth and be living on this planet.
No.
You see how vain that is?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, that's I'm
not saying that.
Okay, I'm running out of time here, though. I got a bunch of other callers.
All right.
Make your final point.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. You have to believe in something. if you don't believe in something, that does make you an atheist.
Atheists believe in all kinds of things, sir. Just none of the things we believe in are things you can call gods.
Okay, so you don't believe in God. So
right.
You don't believe in anything. That's what created you.
No, God is not. No. Not believing in God does not mean you don't believe in anything else. We believe in all the other stuff. We believe in the stuff that actually does exist.
You want to do another song?
Okay. Did we lose him?
Want to make a point?
He's gone.
All right.
I can't believe. We're getting a really interesting crop today of people on the borderline who really want to talk about stuff, and these complete over the edge guys.
Let's try one more here. Kristen?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Actually, just listening to you guys for a while now, a few things have flown into my head which prompted me to call in.
Yeah.
Obviously you have one party operating in reason and another one operating in the concept of faith, and I think when people confuse the two, you're running into trouble.
Exactly.
What concerns me about the high school thing, if I was to interject my own opinion into it, I'd say based on the earlier definitions, I'm an agnostic atheist, I tend to go that way if I have to make a choice. What scares me the most about this whole high school thing is the idea that when people talk about a personal relationship with God, given that the 30 seconds of silence or however long they were given, gave everyone in there an opportunity to express or think whatever they needed to think.
Exactly.
And if you have that personal relationship, does it stand to reason that you have to do this out loud? Is this something, and I think at that point it stopped being about whatever religion you believed in and it started to being about bullying.
Yes, it's not about their personal relationship. It's about being a social power
and whatever
to make everybody be like you, or to use your power to get your way.
Whatever you believe. If the tables were turned and you guys were the majority, which I don't think that's ever going to happen, unfortunately, but
someday there was a time in the past when we were in England, the atheists are in the majority.
But basically, anybody that's in the majority, because they assume they're right simply because they are the majority, which I think is very easy for people to do, is an awfully dangerous position to take.
Exactly.
And it does do a disservice, I think, to whatever good can be gleaned from a religious experience, which I've met Christians, which I find to be, again, very scientific, and even they themselves express regret and remorse over the kinds of attitudes that are so prevalent. Unfortunately, we always hear the most extreme examples. I don't have anything against what people, it's like this last fellow, it's like they don't understand that nobody's saying you can't believe what you want. What we're saying is let us believe what we want.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem for you. We're not going to interfere with your life. We're not going to take away what you want to believe. But just try to understand that and it seems like you lose people the minute you say that. And it really scares me, because I can see these same people that I think about that I went to school with and other things saying that this whole high school event was God acting through these people. And, well, obviously it must be right because all these people stood up and
Which God event are you talking about? The prayers.
The prayers thing. And just like just now with the guy in the lights, it's like what? It's given a million opportunities for an event to occur, and it occurs in that one moment. That's a coincidence.
Yeah.
And it's awfully self-centered to assume that it's because of your personal faith.
That's the point I was going to make about how vain and self-centered it was. They wanted to show, hey, I'm a better Christian than these. I'm going to do the Lord's Prayer here and get the,
Yeah, and like I said, if I was raised in a family with everything from atheist to Buddhist to, everything under the sun. So, I kind of grew up feeling like, well, to each his own, but given my perspective, I feel like I haven't been given that same amount of leeway, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take off though. I do appreciate your call.
Come on down to the bagel shop.
Yeah, come on down to the bagel shop.
All right.
You have a great week. Okay, Arlo did a great job on the show. I appreciate you being sharing some more music with us here as we're closing out the show. And
are we going to take a caller, or are we done? Oh, it's a minute left, yeah.
And, our friends from Frolics 8. See, originally when they first put up there, they had the 8 all together there, so. And, Kevin Pope and mixed by Arlo Pignotti. Yes. This was a strange day there. It wasn't a joke, yes.
Learn, folks. Find out what's really going on. The point of knowing about stuff is to, do we have to have a close-up on me? Back off! The point of learning about stuff is so you know what's really going on. And if you use what you want to be true as a standard of evidence, what you're going to do is fill your head full of things that it makes you happy to believe, not necessarily full of information about what is really going on. Okay?
That's what it's about. It's not about having a big group who can all stand up at once and pray, and that proves you're right. It's about being right.
We love you, Austin. Have a good Memorial weekend.
Bye.